everybody, nice to see you again for another amp dyno video. And today I have a 4-channel amplifier from Rockford Fosgate. It's a Punch 400A4, and this one is rated 50 watts by 4 into a 4 ohm load of continuous power and 100 watts by 4 into a 2 ohm load of continuous power. Here on this side you can make your connections to the speakers and the power connection and the remote connection with the status LED. There you can see if the amplifier is switched on or not. And on the other side of the amplifier you can see the gain ports and the RCA inputs and some switches. So there are two switches on the left and on the right near the gain ports, and the first switch and the other switch are the filter switches. You can select full frequency spectrum or a low pass filter of 80 Hz. It's fixed, not variable, and you can set it to a high pass filter of 120 Hz. The Punch 400A4 is connected to the dummy load, and I start with 1 kHz continuous power test into a 4 ohm load per channel, all 4 channels driven. And in this case I have bridged mono 8 ohms on the fronts and bridged mono 8 ohms to the rears, all channels loaded. 1 kHz continuous power test, 4 ohms per channel, all 4 channels loaded. In this case I have 47.2 volts. The amplifier delivers 71 watts of continuous power with 1 kHz into a 4 ohm load, all 4 channels driven. Let's have a look at the efficiency. "35 amps. I calculated an efficiency of around 59%. I'm doing the same test, but this time I use a 50 Hz signal into a 4 ohm load, continuous power. Way too much. And I got a voltage of 46 volts. Is this true? We can take 46.4 volts. And even with 50 Hz the amplifier stays strong with 69 watts per channel of continuous power into a 4 ohm load, all 4 channels driven. Now I'm testing for some dynamic power. I have a look at all the cycles. The first one is a little bit higher than the other. So in this case here it is lower, so we take the middle point. But first I have a look if we have some clipping, but there isn't any clipping. And of course I switch directly to the last cycle. And also the last cycle has no clipping. So I take one of the middle cycles and we have a voltage of 48 volts. Now I'm testing according to the CA 2006 498 standard. That means I give an input signal of 8 milliseconds 1 kHz and a pause of 24 milliseconds, and the cycle starts again. So it looks like this. Here you have the cycle, a pause and a cycle, and this happens around 31 times per second. It's a kind of continuous power test, but with a burst, with a faster burst, not just 2 times per second, it's 31 times per second. If I do it like this, you can see it here. And there we have our cycle. And the first one is a little bit higher, so I'm going to take one of the center cycles. Now I go to this point. So we got a little higher voltage, 49.6 volts. According to the CEA 2006 498 standard, the amplifier puts out 78.5 watts into a 4 ohm load, all 4 channels driven. With different test methods we can also calculate different values of efficiency. In continuous power mode the amplifier has, as I said, an efficiency of 59.2%. if we take the 1 kHz 20 cycles test, and the amplifier has an efficiency of 61.3%. This is the value Rockford printed in the mid-90s birth sheets. They tested with 20 cycles. And if I take the newer standard, the CEA 2006 standard, the amplifier has an efficiency of 65%. So pick what you want. Bridging the amplifier with a 4 ohm load on the fronts and a 4 ohm load on the rears. That means I test for 2 ohms per channel, all 4 channels driven. 1 kHz continuous power test, 2 ohms per channel. So guided peak voltage off. 40.4 volts. The amplifier delivers around 105 watts, almost 105 watts. It's 104.6 watts into a 2 ohm load, all 4 channels driven. Continuous power test, 2 ohms with 50 hertz. In this case, I have an output voltage of 38.8 volts. The amplifier delivers 96.5 watts into a 2 ohm load of continuous output power with 50 hertz, all 4 channels driven. I just forgot to calculate the efficiency, so I have to check out how many amps the amplifier pulls out of my power supply. In this case it's 58.9 amps. 2 ohms continuous power, the amplifier has an efficiency of 52%. So I made a dynamic power test with 20 cycles, and there's no dynamic headroom. I also get 40.4 volts. I took the center cycles, and now I'm switching to 8 cycles. Let's take this one. Do we have an higher output voltage? Yes, we have 43.2 volts. In this case, I got around 120 watts according to the CEA 2006 standard 490A per channel into a 2 ohm load. That means the amplifier puts out 480 watts. Just a test with 2 cycles. There we have it. So we have a much higher voltage here. We have 49.2 volts, and let me just calculate it just for fun. In this case we have 155 watts into a 2 ohm load, all 4 channels driven. Thank you very much for watching and see you next time on the next amp dyno video. Bye bye.